Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I am joined once again by Professor Ben Nicholson, lead author of Clockwork Basilisk, the early revolvers of Elisha Collier and Artemas Wheeler. We have your book currently in pre-sale on Kickstarter. It is a fantastic book, 2 volumes. There's a link in the description text below where you can check it out if you're interested. And what I want to talk about today are the different types of Collier revolvers. Because one of the things that your book does is break this down into 3 distinct patterns of gun. And they're all significantly different. And I think there's a good, interesting explanation for why each one exists.
Yeah.
But most people probably don't recognize this.
Sure.
So tell me, what are the 3 patterns of Collier?
Well, first of all, Collier didn't name his types of guns.
Okay.
He just gave serial numbers. And in the 1971, a fantastic collector called Clay Bedford, who worked on the Grand Coulee Dam, Liberty ships, and also the Willis Jeep.
So you're saying this guy had some money?
He had plenty of change, but he was an engineer.
Okay.
And he was open to taking things apart. And a scuzzy gun or a really good gun didn't matter to him.
Okay.
He just wanted them all. He has had the largest collection of Colliers there was, 10, which is a lot.
Wow. It's both impressive to have that many Colliers, and it's also, I think it's revealing that the biggest extant collection in the world was 10.
Right.
Because you compare that to most other firearms.
Right.
10 is like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
10 means you're serious.
Right.
Doesn't mean much more than that.
Right.
10 Colliers is, anyway.
He owned 12% of all known Colliers today. Right.
And actually, that would have been, what, like a couple percent of all produced Colliers ever?
Yes.
10 out
absolutely.
of 240? That's like 4% of all ever produced.
He had them all. Right. I mean, if you think of that with a Colt, right, that would be thousands and thousands.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, he's an engineer. He doesn't really care so much about condition. He's just fascinated by Colliers.
Yeah.
And he accumulates this collection, and then he came up with these designations. Is that what?
Yeah. I mean, look, he's an engineer, so he knew what was going on. He had an analytical mind to say, well, there's that group, there's this group, and that group. And he gave the prototype the designation of first model.
Okay.
He gave the production flintlocks the designation of second model.
Okay.
And then anything that was percussion, third model.
Okay.
And he kind of mushed the conversions from flint into percussion into that third model group.
Okay. So what made the, first off, how many are we talking about for first model? You just said the prototypes.
Yeah.
It really was that few?
Yes, it really was. I mean, we've got today, let's say 10, and we luckily have prototype number 1, number 2, number 3 is known, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7 we've recreated with World of Guns, 8 we don't have, and we have 9, which is incredible.
That's very remarkable.
That you have, out of 9 you've got, 6 or 7 of the prototypes. It's a big deal. It's made our work a lot easier.
Yeah, indeed it would. So these are the guns that went through military trials?
Well, yes, they did. I mean, the first couple, they were just trying to figure out whether this thing was viable.
Okay.
And that they're kind of lumpy and bumpy, and they're made in America, and they have a manual rotation system.
Okay.
So those are the proof of concept guns. Then you go into this group of clockwork assist. I'm not going to say semi-automatic, but it's like in my mind it's there.
At the time, that would have been an appropriate term.
I would say.
They're automating something that wasn't automated before.
Right. I mean, you pull back the cock and it goes ka-ching like that and resets, the primer goes down. Everything's done for you.
And it's actually really cool that that's not done by a mechanical arm. It's done by a wind-up spring.
Yes. Yes, it is. Right, exactly.
4, 5 is all
Yes.
that they ever made?
Right.
Okay.
Well, or we think they made.
Okay.
Because the number, once you get to 9, picks up again at the manual rotation.
Okay. And would that then transition to the second pattern? The second
Yes,
type?
yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And how long did that go?
Which one?
Second pattern.
The second model. Well, again, we don't have those account books. So
Okay.
you can only infer what was going on through letters and gun reports that were being made at the time. So let's say that the second model came around 1822.
Okay.
And the last one came in probably maybe 1826, 1820, 26.
Okay.
And we reckon he would be building flintlock guns as well as the new percussion guns at the same time.
Okay.
Because
that
you're going to
makes
have
sense.
people who, A, don't have access to percussion caps easily. I mean, if you're in India, you
Right.
don't have percussion caps, you've got nothing. If you've got a bag of flints, you're good to go.
Right. That's an attitude that persists in the gun community today. I don't want that fancy new ammo. It's proprietary. And what if the
Sure.
gun shop stops carrying?
Absolutely.
Then my gun is useless.
Fair enough.
So-
Fair enough.
Okay, so there is a chronological overlap between second and third pattern.
Likely. Yeah.
Was Collier the first one to make percussion colliers, or were other people converting them and then he just went, oh, wow, other people are doing that. We should get in and, like, it's a good idea. We should do some of that too.
Okay, so just to back up on the time, Forsyth invented the concept of percussion weapons.
Right.
And I'm sure you've pointed this out before, but he was a Scottish minister
Yes,
in the
he was.
church.
Yes, who had this terrible problem of his flintlock was getting wet because he was Scottish when he was trying to hunt.
Well, but there's something even more delicious than that, is that when he was using his flintlock, the flash goes, and the ducks saw the flash and got out of dodge. So by the time the charge was fired, they'd gone already. So he was looking for a system where the ducks and the pheasants, the grouse, would not see the
Interesting.
pan flash.
Okay,
Yeah,
and succeeded.
yeah. he
So,
did.
so we're talking not that long after the system is originally just invented.
Sure.
And especially the farther back in time you go, the slower information travels.
Yes.
It's, today you
yeah.
invent that and in
Yeah.
a year,
Yeah.
it's pretty common.
I think actually it went a lot faster than you think.
Okay.
I do think so. I mean, I'm amazed at how quickly everything went.
Okay.
Because they were making single barrel percussion pistols earlier than what Collier was doing, and he was just adapting that.
Okay.
Yeah. So he wasn't the first one who used percussion for pistols, but he was the first one to use percussion for revolvers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So do we have any idea either when chronologically or when by serial number Collier started actually producing his own percussion model?
I would say around 1824.
Okay.
Something around that. And he had to make a whole bunch of design changes because he had on the right-hand side of the flintlock the cock, and now, of course, we call it the hammer. And so he had to strike the percussion cap at a weird angle on the gun. And it was Colt who brought the hammer in line with the barrel.
Right.
That was a big deal. So Colt was able to start from scratch. Collier had to adapt the flintlock system,
Okay.
the geometry of the flintlock system.
Okay.
And he was always, if he'd stuck with it, he might have moved it over in line.
Right. Okay. Do you know what the proportion, proportion of second model to third model guns are?
More second than third.
Okay.
And frankly, Collier was getting bored of the project. You can feel it because he sold his patent. But before he sold it, he licensed his patent. And remember, by 1828, he was done with guns. He was on to boilers and ship boilers, which is basically the equivalent of the jet engine today.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you needed to get from England to India ASAP with using as little coal as possible.
Okay.
And he had some great systems going.
Okay. So he was very much an engineer and an inventor, not
Yes.
specifically a gun fanatic.
Not at all.
We see some of these guys, some of the inventors they're just single-focused gun guys, and they will spend 40 years on one project.
I mean, if Collier had done that, he probably would have gotten to where Colt ended up.
Okay.
And I mean, Collier went on to make nail-making machines and some really interesting patterns. We've studied and analyzed them all. Even he's got a patent for making paper out of seaweed.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, you know, these minds were polymathic personalities.
Okay.
And you might say promiscuous, but...
Intellectually promiscuous.
Yeah, exactly. Intellectual. Thank you. We don't know about the other stuff, but you know, one can only imagine.
Do you have any idea how many of the third pattern guns were made by Collier versus being earlier guns converted by independent gunsmiths?
Again, really good question. There are some Collier and Co. In other words, Collier and Company, Colliers, and they are really beautiful, not collected with the same intensity as the kind of steampunk second model.
There is something about having a magazine frizzen on a revolver.
Oh yeah.
It's just a little cooler than a percussion gun.
Absolutely. We can relate to a percussion, but we just can't relate to flintlock. So at the moment, I'd say I think we've got 2 or 4 Collier and Co's.
Okay.
But they're whole. The standard of Georgian gunsmithing is there. And all of the decoration is exquisite, and the finishes and the browning. You're basically getting a flintlock quality, like a dueling pistol quality, in percussion.
Okay.
And then once he has sold his patent, quality begins to drop off. Nothing bad, but it drops off.
Okay. And when did he sell off the patent?
Again, we don't know, but it's going to be around 26 to 28.
Okay.
Something in there.
Okay, so there really is this period of 1818 to 1821, he's developing the system and getting it working.
Yes.
21 to 24, he's trying to get military patents.
Right.
24 to 26 is, okay, let's just do the commercial thing.
Yep.
And then 26 to 28 is, I'm bored, how do I get out of this, try to recoup some of my investment.
Sure.
And then move on to greener pastures.
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember, he went bankrupt.
Right. Yeah, the
In
greener
England.
pastures didn't quite work out.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
Fortunately, global extradition laws were not what they are today.
Right.
And he was able to skip out on his debts in England and escape back to the U.S. to become embroiled in a lawsuit with Sam Colt.
Right. He went out of the frying pan into the fire. Right?
All right. Well, we need to talk about Sam Colt, but that's a
Sure.
subject for another
Right.
video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this little explanatory look at what the different models and the timeline of Collier was. If you would like a tremendous amount more information on Collier and Wheeler and the fountainhead of all modern revolvers, take a look at the Kickstarter. There's a link in the description text. We are currently pre-selling Professor Nicholson's book on the subject, and it is really, I'm pretty confident that will stand as the definitive book on Collier and Wheeler.
Yes.
There's not really anything left to be expanded upon from this book.
No. I mean, with books, you talk about them being 10-year books, 20-year books, 50-year books, or 100-year books. We're going for the 100.
Yeah.
Right. That it's not possible to write anything else.
Right. Anyway, check it out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.